is Kathleen Folan, and I'm speaking at this year's Walk for Life West Coast on January 25th at 12:30 in Civic Center Plaza. I'm going to tell you about my story of pain and suffering that turned into one of hope and joy that just continues to grow. When I was a junior in college here in San Francisco, I was raped by an acquaintance and didn't tell a soul, as a lot of girls don't, because it's a pretty traumatic experience. And a month later, I discovered that I was pregnant because I felt ill every day, all day, and wouldn't go away. And it took me a few days to figure out and even remember that night and what might have been. And in the moment that I discovered that I was pregnant, my life flashed before me because it had been so well planned, and I had a near perfect all-American life with a plan, like most college students do. And now that was going to change dramatically. But I also knew that I loved the baby that was inside me and that God entrusted him to me for whatever reason. And I was 90% sure in the moment I found out that I was pregnant with him that I would choose adoption. My mom was also adopted in 1945, and that gave me a comfort level with it. It took me 11 days of talking to my parents on the phone every day to finally tell them, and that's because I knew how much I was going to crush them. I was terrified of telling them. I was terrified of being judged by my very Catholic friends, my professors, my community, my family, and it wasn't part of the vision that I had for myself. And then finally on the 11th day, I was able to tell them, and they were so supportive. They even joked about it. They offered to adopt him themselves, or I could transfer to Gonzaga in my hometown of Spokane, Washington, and they would help me. But I knew that this baby needed a mother and a father, and how important that was. And so I was pretty sure that adoption was the way for him. Open adoption was pretty new in 1990, very unheard of, but I think because of my mom's adoption experience, I knew that I needed to choose a family that would raise my baby. I was going to place my baby into the arms of another woman, and I needed to know that they would raise him the same way I want my future children raised. And I also knew that I wanted to know that he was okay, and for him to know who I was, without the burden of having to ask his parents and upsetting them. So I searched a couple hundred families, and God led me through a series of miracles to the family that I chose, the Sullivans, and they lived in Maryland on the other side of the country. We met them, we clicked, and I asked them to adopt him. And there were lots of miracles that I don't have time to share with you, and you'll have to wait for that at the Walk for Life. But I will say that I did take him home for 6 days, which was also unheard of. And I thought that was a crazy idea that my adoption counselor proposed. But she said I was 21 by the time he was born. I was a philosophy major. I had a good head on my shoulders, as did my family. And she said she knew I wouldn't change my mind by letting my emotions control me. So I took him home. I had him 2 days in the hospital and 4 days at home. And they met him on day 3, Barry and Liz and his sister Kristen. And we baptized him on day 4. And at the baptism, we had a handing over ceremony where I placed him in the arms of Liz. And Barry and Liz welcomed all of us into their family and said that it felt like they had a new extended family of long-distance cousins. And they said they would write to us and keep in touch. And they have always honored that. My grandma took them up on it a lot with pictures and letters. And then I went back to college 2 months later. I was in the fall play, the spring musical. I worked. I took 18 units. I worked out every night. I wish I could do that again. I had a very active social life, and was a great pro-life example on campus, like my philosophy professor had asked me to be. But I still cried every night, but in the middle of the night so no one would see, because there was that little seed of doubt, wondering what if I had kept my baby. When spring break came, Barry begged me to go and spend it with them in Maryland, and I thought he was insane, but he insisted, and I went out there. And the minute I walked into their home with his dad and his mom and his sister playing with them and making dinner, I saw that he had everything I couldn't give him at that time, and I knew that I had made the right decision. And 2 weeks later, I met the man of my dreams, who is now my husband of 24 and a half years, and we have 3 beautiful children. What's more amazing is that we reconnected with my birth son, Nathan, when he moved out here in 2012, and he worked for a tech company. He was an Eagle Scout, so my boys joined Boy Scouts, and now they are both Eagle Scouts. And he went to an aeronautical university in Florida, and so my boys were inspired to follow in his footsteps, and they are now a freshman and a sophomore at the same university where he lives. And they see each other on an almost daily basis. And who could have known in that moment that I took that pregnancy test and my world flashed in front of me that it would turn out so beautifully, and he would be looking out for his younger half-brothers. And I also have a daughter, and she studies economics and computer science and looks up to him as well. And I would say to the woman, you will get through this. You will come out stronger in the end. God gave me this incredible gift of a life and our incredible story. Nathan's adoptive father, Barry, always said that our story is so amazing because it's focused on God and his plan for Nathan and what's best for Nathan. And we haven't really shared it that much. I even had friends for a year or 2 that didn't even know about it, not because it was a secret, it just never came up. But now we've been called to share this story, and it's not easy, for sure. But the Holy Spirit is with us, and I feel like now is the time to share it, to give other people hope, and to see a good story, what can become of it if you let it.